and advice. So people following your instructions, and they're fairly specific, but sometimes I feel like it's good for people to hear the answers just generally as well. So this question pertains to the practice of awareness. So they've been following your instructions, and they've recently started to feel as though physical space and awareness are the same thing during practice. Yeah. And they don't know if they're on the wrong path or the right path, and if you had any advice for that. And then also, someone's asking about invert awareness and your instruction to invert awareness.
Oh, invert awareness.
What that might mean.
Okay, very good. The practice of awareness among dozens of different shamatha practices taught by the Buddha and later Indian Mahasiddhas and into the Dzogchen tradition and so on in Tibet. There are dozens of methods. And bear in mind, just a little footnote to the earlier, for people of very sharp faculties, they may go right into vipassana. Meditation on emptiness. Identify emptiness, realize emptiness, and achieve shamatha by way of vipassana. That's also possible. That you don't have shamatha first and vipassana second. You may actually accomplish both of them simultaneously, but you have to be very sharp faculties for that. Just as you have to be very sharp faculties to be introduced to Rikpa and then just rest in it in a seamless, unbroken flow so that shamatha vipassana flow out spontaneously. Possible in principle. For most of us, we have to take a more step-by-step practice. But among the dozens of different methods, the one that the Buddha himself pointed to as the most profound of them all, he called it vijnana kasina. It is, in fact, awareness of awareness, just being conscious of being conscious, the most profound. And it's the one, even though it's not a Vajrayana practice, you find it in Theravada, Mahayana, you find it in the shamatha phases of Mahamudra and Dzogchen. Even though it's not a Vajrayana practice per se, it does have the flavor of taking the fruition as the path. And that is from the first moment you begin practicing, you're bringing forth your closest approximation to having already achieved shamatha. And what is that? When you've achieved shamatha, your coarse mind has dissolved into its relative ground of the substrate consciousness. The senses have vanished. The sense fields have vanished into the space of the mind. And you're resting in the alai vijnana, the substrate consciousness. And objectively, all you're aware of is the substrate. And the substrate is that sheer vacuity of the space of mental awareness. And your awareness of that is the substrate consciousness. And that space of which you are conscious is the substrate. Well, is there any kind of internal bifurcation between the substrate, which is the space of awareness, and your awareness of it? No, there's not. That is, the substrate consciousness is coextensive. It pervades that space. So the space of the substrate is permeated by the luminosity of the substrate consciousness. So as with the fruition, so with the path. So when you are withdrawing your awareness, not in the sense of contracting and bringing your awareness into a little point inside your head, completely wrong. But when we say inverting awareness, it means you're taking no interest in any of the appearances of sound, sights, tactile sensations within the physical environment, just no interest. You're interested in one thing, and that is awareness itself. And you're resting in what was already there, because before you started practicing, you were already aware of being aware. Right now, you're aware of being aware. You're probably not meditating right now, but right now, do you know whether you're conscious or might you right now be unconscious? You already know it, so there's already awareness of awareness. So this practice is doing less, not more. So don't tell me it's difficult, because you're already doing it before you began meditating. So the inversion is simply a turning away from all of the appearances in the five physical senses, and you're aware of the thoughts, images, memories, and so forth arising in the mind just enough that you're not carried away by them. But basically, you drop your anchor, you settle your awareness right in awareness itself, and only peripherally aware of the thoughts, images, memories, and so forth that arise, simply noticing that, but without getting caught up in the story, without identifying with them, without reifying them, just noting them enough that when a thought of the past comes, you don't go down memory lane. A thought pertaining to the future comes, you don't launch off in the future. And when thoughts arise pertaining to the present, you don't like catch a ride with a circling vulture circling around in the present moment. You just rest in that simplicity, in which in that awareness itself, it is already non-dual from the space of awareness. So if you're finding that any bifurcation of awareness and space is dissolving away, well, welcome to reality. That's the way it's always been.